So branches are basically what we've been teaching about, and what it is, it's God's made a promise to us in our branches that He said He'll, from now on with David, the King Solomon and King David and all of his tribes, He'll bring a branch of righteousness throughout our nation, every nation, every generation. So this is a generational promise. The branches are for us. This is not something we read about in the Old Testament and go, man, I wish I was back in those old days, because that would be great, because I get the... No, it's today. It was a promise for us today. So we receive the branch as a blessing, and God's always talking about fruit, and the fruit that we have, and the fruit that we bear, the fruit that we show. So the series today is called Fruit Inspection. So we're inspecting the fruit in which we give and we do to our lives. So we always read our scripture that we have, and let's stand together, and we're going to read this together. And Sonia's going to come up and read with us. And praise the Lord, I turned your mic off. Okay. Can I give you a different mic?
How about I use your mic?
Oh, that sounds cool.
Matthew 3:8, here we go. Jesus said, "Therefore, bear fruits worthy of repentance, and do not think to say to yourselves, 'We have Abraham as our father.' For I say to you that God is able to raise up children to Abraham from these stones. And even now the axe is laid to the root of the trees. Therefore, every tree which does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire."
All right. Well, praise the Lord. I'll start off with an odd statement to make, but I'll say it anyway. This service has been being prepared for the last 4 years. And so this is a special sermon and service to me today because it means a lot. And it's really something that we've been working for 4 years. And I haven't shared the vision of our leadership except to the few leaders that have stepped up and said, hey, I want to lead. And so we've kind of created a format of what leadership looks like and how it looks and how it produces and how it builds. And we'll talk more about that as we go into this service. But the key is that we want to realize there is good fruit, amen? And there's some bad fruit out there. And it comes from both of us. Sometimes we're producing really well and we do really good, and sometimes we produce something that we're ashamed of or sorry that we said or sorry that we did. But that's for all of us. And God really wants us to be fruit inspectors. Because if we leave it up to Him to be a fruit inspector, can I tell you some bad news? It's going to be too late. You know, He's not ahead of us. You know, He's waiting for us. He's already up there. And it's our time. And the better we inspect ourselves first and let God be God, but we take care of what God has shown us in His Word and what He's shown, then the better off we are as people. And so it's not easy. We need to do this as a team. We need to do this together. We need to not be islands to ourselves. That's where we tend to get a little bit off of our fruit and off of what God's doing. But we have a real leadership problem. And this is why we're talking about branches, because leadership is a problem that we talked about a little bit last week, that we build everything on a flow chart. So you have your president of the companies, you have your vice presidents, the regionals, the managers, the area supervisors, the staff, and then everybody under them. And the way the hierarchy is set, that there's one man or several people who are above, and they all kind of work down. But we'll read this in a second, but I remember Christ teaching us that's not His model. He even asked His disciples that. He's like, so if I'm waiting tables, and I'm a restaurant manager, so I love waiting tables. But if I'm waiting tables, who's greater in the room? The person waiting on the table or the person sitting at the table? And the disciples, of course, said, yeah, the guy that's sitting at the table. You're working for him. The waiter is. And so God's like, well, that's true in the world, but I've come to turn that upside down. We've been learning about branches. We've been learning about this series and how this branch of David is a branch that really turns things upside down. And it's an unusual branch. As we read through the Old Testament, it shows us a type and a shadow of things to come. So we've looked at this branch and we've seen how Moses lifted up the staff, the branch that he carried for leadership, and he made the wet ground dry. And they walked through the Dead Sea. they see how he lifted up his staff and touched the rock, and what was dry became wet. He saw that he came to a pool that was in the middle of the desert, and it was a bitter pool, and he threw the branch into the water, and it became sweet. God turns things around in us. He turns things around for us, and he uses that branch to do that. That we use this branch, and that branch of leadership is really what God wants. So there's no surprise here when Jesus came and said, yeah, who's the greatest in the kingdom of God? You know, the guy waiting on the tables? Or the guy sitting at the table? You know, and we would be, and the disciples were too. They're like, yeah, it's the guy at the table, of course. He goes, yeah, but I'm throwing the branch in. Because I've come to turn things around. I've come to turn things around and build things differently. But yet we still consistently lead our leadership in the same manner that we did back then. We still lead our government in the same way. We have a president you may love, a president you may hate. Believe me, if you don't like him, just wait a little while. We'll get another one. It happens. I've seen a few. And a couple of them I really liked, and a couple of them I was like, oh my goodness, praying. But, you know, God puts that in charge. Romans 13 says he's the one that puts our leadership in charge. But is that man the one who's in charge? See, the government was set up for the people. It was set up for the people and to be ran for the people and through the people and by the people. And we changed it, and we made it a hierarchy of president that they run the country. And it's not even their job. And they fail miserably at, let's just take a couple pokes at a few things. How about poverty? We expect them to take care of our poverty, and we throw money, and we throw money, and how many times have you thrown money at your children and it's helped them? Or thrown money at a problem if you had it, you know, it had extra, and it fixed it. See, money's not the problem, nor will it be the thing that fixes it, but yet we always look at these principles as if, man, I just got to fix this with a little more money. And God's like, no, money's not your problem. The problem is your system. And he turns everything upside down, and he turned the whole world upside down as he brought the gospel, which simply just means good news. You know, this is good news, you guys. Don't be so white-knuckle and afraid of what God's got for you. It's good stuff. But we need the right leadership to lead it right. So what we've done in the last 4 years in our team and what we've done in this leadership is I'd met with Jim. This was 4 years ago, believe it or not, 3.5. And Jim's like, Bart, I'm a church builder. I want to help build this church. And I'm like, okay, Jim, I could use some help with. We're going to start building a leadership team. And we started building our deacon team, and we said there's 3 phases to this. Just 3 phases, really easy, really 3 phases to do it. Come on, 3's easy, right? And they have to do with what I was taught through the Lord when I was in the businesses of restaurants and management. And it really has to do with what Aaron and his rod, you remember the stories we talked about Aaron's rod. Aaron's rod is the only, out of 2 other things, the only 3rd thing that's in the Ark of the Covenant. So there's some real, purpose in this rod. But he put the rod in the temple, and I'll review it real quick. And the rod in the temple with all the other tribes, and only his rod, first it budded, and then it bloomed, and then it bore fruit. And then they came in the next morning. This is one night. You just see how God can turn things around in one night. He's not looking for centuries. He's looking for obedience. He can do it in a moment. Sometimes it takes us centuries to get to that moment. Oh, okay, we'll just pretend you didn't hear that. Sometimes it takes us centuries to get to that one moment. Do you ever get there where you're like, oh, I just give up? And things just happen? And you're like, I feel kind of dumb. Should have gave up earlier. God's like, yeah, you should have. Would have been easier. But I am notorious for that. So if anybody's making fun of something, I'm making fun of I do that all the time. And finally I just get so frustrated. And I'm like, oh, I can't do this anymore. And God's like, whew, shoo, about time you got out of the way. You know, I didn't want to hurt your feelings, but you're just kind of in the way, you know. And I'm like, yeah, I do that a lot, don't I? But see, this is the type of leadership God's looking for, is some leadership that blooms. It has some budding. It buds, and then it blossoms, and then it bears fruit. But it doesn't bear fruit without it doing those three things first. And so we look at this rod, we're talking about the branch, and we're talking about fruit, and we look at this rod and we talk about how it went through three phases and how those three phases were important to get to its final phase, which is producing. And that's really what we all, live off of. If our crops never produced more crop, our populations would have died years ago. And not only do they produce more crop, but they produce more crop exponentially. So it doesn't matter how much we grow, the crop's way ahead of you. Isn't that awesome how God provided that? It's like He knew. We were in Los Angeles on our mission trip with our youth, and Clay and Stephanie did amazing youth mission trip with us. And I saw on a billboard, and it said this big billboard up there, and it showed a milk carton, okay, and it had a little label on it. The top of the milk carton has a date, expiration date on top. And it said on this billboard, it said 40% of all food in America is thrown away, is trashed and wasted. 40%, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, we live in abundance. And we talk about poverty, and we throw our government under the bus and say, oh, it's their job to fix that? Our government's not here to fix that. We are. And we need to stop pointing the fingers at them or they or those guys or their party or their nationality or their heritage. It's not them that's the problem. It's our leadership. Us. We're the problem. So you can see why it took 4 years to write this sermon, because I didn't want to throw this all at you at once. But this is where we're at. Think about it. In our leadership, this is where we're at. We need to decide where we are. So let's take a fruit inspection of ourselves, all right? Oh, you think, is that fair? So if we're taking a leadership perspective and we're kind of evaluating our fruit, because we can be honest with ourselves, right? We're not going to be, holding any punches today, as you can tell. But we're looking at this. Meet those people who love Jesus, but not the church. And this is a group that did this. It's non-religious group, but they did this survey. And guess what they came up with? In gender, they came up with that 39%, or is it 39% of men are in that category. They love Jesus, but just don't like the church. Why is that? Isn't Jesus the church? No? No, Jesus not the church? Wait, whoa. We should be all in our own homes then right now and sitting by the campfire singing Kumbaya by ourselves. But the Word says we need to gather together, and don't forsake the gathering together of the temple, of the people of God. He says gather together because you're my bride. So if you don't think we're the church, then figure this out. What do you think? You think you can just do this off watching TBN or watching, something on the TV or radio or listen? And that's all good. It's all important. Listen to that and learn. But this is the body. This is Christ. So let's just, I just want to make sure we're clear. Okay. All right. So women, there's 61% of the women love Jesus, but they don't like the church. Well, how can you love Jesus and not like the church? Leadership. See, you can see why it took 4 years to write this sermon. Okay, so here we go. All right, so let's look at age groups. Let's look at age groups. So we got the millennials, and the millennials here are 14% love Jesus and don't like the church. We look at the Gen X's, 36%, it's getting bad. 36% of the Gen Xers, they love Jesus, but they don't like the church. So let's look at those good baby boomers, right? I'm a boomer. And so, as you can tell, so baby boomers, 44% of boomers love Jesus. and don't like the church. You think we have a problem? Have we inspected some fruit and realized that we've got some expired product? Something's gone bad? You ever smelled bad broccoli in the pantry or something? You're like, whoo, we got some bad broccoli going. So people are coming to see Jesus and they're not liking what they're smelling when they come into the church. But they still love Jesus. But they don't like what they're smelling when they get here. And so how do we fix that? I mean, it's just like, do we run a free-for-all? Do we just kind of, throw our hands up and go, well, let's just do everybody get together and we'll just kumbaya all, and we'll just skip all leadership and we'll just love each other and it'll be a love fest, right? Hey, I was raised in the 60s, so, I know that love fest doesn't work, so let's don't repeat our mistakes. But here it says in Matthew 7:17 and 18, it says, even so every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears bad fruit. For a good tree cannot and won't bear bad fruit, nor can a bad tree bear good fruit. So what do we have a problem of? Leadership needs to be upside down. We need to realize that we need to turn our leadership all around. So how do we do that? And that's a problem that's not to be joked about. So I'm having fun because I want to make you laugh, but I'm not joking. This is something that we've got to look at as ourselves as churches and a ministry and say, we've got to touch a generation, but we can't even touch Christians. We got lost people out there, but we can't even save each other. Am I inspecting fruit right? I mean, because that's what these stats are saying. And so what Jesus is saying here, and this is the scripture that I quoted from, and it's Matthew 20:28. He says, just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but he came to be served, to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. So what Jesus is teaching us and showing us here, that this model has to be the other way around. That we have to be serving each other and not you serving someone else or someone else serving over you. And that's how we set these churches. That's how we set our government. So how do we turn that around? How do we turn that upside down? So in leadership, this is a big problem. It's a big problem in business. It's a big problem in companies. It's a big problem in corporations. And I know that every one of you worked or have worked. But how many of you have had a boss that you just didn't like? You could have been talking 20 years ago. You don't have to mean now, but you might mean now. I'm just saying. We've had bosses that we haven't liked. We liked the job, but didn't like the boss, right, Jesse? I mean, they love you. But they might not like the job. So here's what we talked about with our leadership team. I came up with 3 phases. And I did this through leadership with my restaurants as well. Because really, if we can't do this in the corporate world, we can't do this in our church. We can't do this in our homes. And if we can't turn our leadership model around, then we've got some serious problems. And I think it's because the lack of addressing it, not necessarily that it's such a big problem that it can never be fixed, but we've just maybe never addressed it. So why I've taken 4 years to address it is because I first wanted to roll it out to my management team, my leadership team first, and have them kind of get an idea. And I know that my nose is going to run all day because I started crying early. But the thing is, we wanted to start leadership first, kind of in our role of this, and roll out about 3.5, Jim, is it about 3.5 years that we started that? And we wanted to roll this out and kind of give people, some fell in, some fell out, some fell to the side, some fell, forward, fell down and got back up. So it's all good. But what we wanted to do is start to establish 3 phases. And those 3 phases are really a lot like what we saw in Moses' rod. And this is what the Lord taught me through business. But the first phase is getting engaged. It's that budding phase. To bud, to start to bloom, to start to come out. You ever see that in your life when you're getting out of college and you're like, or getting out of high school and going to college, you're just starting to bud. We have a daughter who's just graduated college, and now she's on her own. And so she thought she budded in college, and now she's budding more. And we see that in our lives. When you have children, you're like, oh my gosh, my life's perfect. Then you have children and you go, oh my gosh, I'm budding. And budding is important. It's important we bud. It's important we do that. And we start that with our first phase in leadership. And our first phase really looks like this. All you do in budding in this sense is get engaged. You know, have you ever heard of a husband proposing to somebody that he wants to marry? What do you call that? Yeah, you call that engagement. So really, I just want to engage you. I want you to get engaged. With me? No. Are you kidding? I've got the best. But I want you to be engaged with Christ. I really want you to get engaged with God. And see, that's really what the first phase of our leadership is. It's just getting engaged. It's not complicated. It's not hard. It looks like this. To get engaged with this leadership, it's super easy. The first thing comes from my side of it, and it comes with a yes. I just say yes. So if somebody comes to me, let's paint through the scenario. If somebody comes to me and says, I want to start a ministry to get engaged, to start leading, right? Because that's what I want. I want leaders to get engaged. I want people to start leading. I want people to start doing. My first answer, yeah. It'll be yes. Great. And I've had leadership, in our leadership, challenge me on that. I've had people, and I appreciate their opinion, and they've come up to me and said, this will be a total train wreck. You cannot say yes to everybody. And I just politely encourage them in some word and study. And I really appreciate that type of leaders. You know what I mean? Because if I had everybody just a yes guy, like you're just a yes, I'm the yes guy, so you don't need to be. Does that make sense? So if you're just a yes guy going, yes, Pastor, I'm not looking for that for you. I want you to confront things, and I appreciate that. And I really appreciated this person. Were they saying it because they were angry? No, they were super excited about it, but wanted to see it succeed. And I'm like, I appreciate that. And so that person went home and prayed about it and listened to what I had to say and came back 3 days later, I think it was, and just, Pastor Bart, you're right. There's nothing you can say but yes, because it opens the door for those people who want to and doesn't allow anybody who doesn't want to do ministry to find an excuse why not to serve. Well, I can't serve because I'm, put in your blank, yeah. Good job, Christoph. Christoph goes, I'm short. I can't serve because I'm a woman. Good job. I can't serve because I'm a... Haven't been trained. I can't do it because I'm not experienced or I'm not smart enough or I didn't go to college. You know, that's a great one. You didn't go to college? Oh my gosh, there's hope for you. No, I'm just kidding. But first answer for me in the engagement process is just to say yes. I want to encourage you. Yes, I want you to be involved. Because if there's a ministry in your heart and there's something in you, I'm going to help lead you. If you come up to me and say, I want to start a beer drinking ministry and we're going to go to all the nightclubs and all the strip clubs and we're going to minister to these strippers, yeah, you might get a no out of that one. Just going to kind of shoot that down real quick. So. Yeah. But if there's a woman who's super, I mean, we have a woman here in Nashville, it's a pastor's wife, and she does do that. She goes to the stripper club, and she stands outside in the back in the parking lot and feeds them, gives them makeup, and gives them all these things. And this, it's an amazing story. But this one woman, she was desperate and she was broken. You know, why? You have the best job in the world. Irony, okay, or sarcasm. All right, so anyway, so she comes to the back of the parking lot and she's praying, and she prayed, and she normally doesn't pray, but she prayed, Lord, I just need makeup. I need, some simple things just to take care of myself, and blah, blah, blah. And this pastor's wife came up and said, hey, I want to, feed you, give you a meal, and I have some makeup. She did Mary Kay or something, and gave her some Mary Kay makeup, and broke her. She's like, Lord, that was you. You heard my prayer. Yeah, somebody said yes to her. I mean, I hope her husband did, right? Her husband said, yeah, honey, go ahead and do that, You learn young in marriage that the man always has the last word. Always. Yes, yes, dear. Yes, honey. So get engaged, because I'm going to tell you yes. If you ask me to do so, I'm going to say yes. I want you to be engaged. And we did this for 4 years, engaging anybody that was interested in doing anything for ministry, because we wanted to engage you. We wanted, all it was a trap. Yes, I said the T word at church. It was a trap to get you doing something. And it didn't matter what it was. Because Christ doesn't care what it is. He doesn't care how it is. Have you ever been caught by God? Anybody ever gone, and this is for the men, ever gone to church because there were some cute girls working there, going there? Man, there's some hot chicks over there at the Pavilion. I'm going to the Pavilion. And then you go there and God gets you, And that hot chick, she maybe moves away or so whatever, but you fall in love with a greater love. Christ. And you're like, oh my gosh, Lord, you tricked me, you trapped me. Yeah, I kind of did. I love you that much. So what we're doing in the engagement stage is we're trying to see you bud. And we're trying to trap you. Okay, I said the word again. But we're trying to trap you to get involved, to do something, to step up, to step in. And you won't fail at it, no matter what it is. Because we're engaged with you. To do whatever that is, you do. And however you do it. And for some of you, maybe it's not you to lead. Maybe you want to help serve. Then I'm going to encourage you. You're at phase 1 still. Get engaged. Help out the ushers. Help out the children's. Did you see some fruit of the children's ministry? Do you see what's happening with our youth? I mean, it's amazing. Get engaged then. See, all stage 1 is engaged. I want you to be engaged in this. And then we look at phase 2, and it's really equipping you, and it's really where you bloom. So somebody gets engaged, they write down what they want to do, they write down what they think that their ministry is, we help them write it out, we make sure that it's clear, because assuming is really bad. If you guys know how to spell really well, you'll understand why you don't want to assume. Spell it out, all right? So those who don't know how to spell did not laugh at all, so it just told me who's bad spellers here. No, I'm just kidding. But blooming is really what we want in phase 2. Really, because in blooming, this is where you really start to grow. This is where you really start to blossom. Because this is where we equip you. We equip you with people. We equip you with need or finance. Or like with Nancy, we help equip her with what she's doing. Nancy's a great example. We engaged her into the children's ministry. She wanted to help. She was serving with Heather. She wanted to serve. We're like, great, we're engaging you to do this. And then eventually, when Heather got married and needed a break, because marriage needs to be your first ministry. Just going to break that to you real quick. Marriage is your first ministry, not the church. Not the church. Marriage is your first ministry. So when you got that going on, then you can go to a second ministry, but get the marriage first. So we gladly released Heather into the marriage. And then here's Nancy. We equipped her, gave her the people around her, helped her with what she needed, helped her where she, and now she's blooming. That girl is blooming. She went through 2 phases. She hadn't even hit the 3rd phase yet. But she is blooming because she is growing in her leadership. So it's not what you do that's important, but it's that you do that's important. And we get caught up. The world, the opposite of that. I mean, the world's all about what you do. What job do you have? Hey, my name is Bart. Who do you work for? Yeah, I'm a vice president of a worldwide company corporation. What do you do? And it's like, and for men, that just tears us up, because we're all about, what is it? Yeah, statue. Okay, we're all about statue. We're all about, like prestige. We're all about our titles, and our jobs mean a lot to us. Like, that's who we are. And it's not who Christ. Can you imagine standing in front of Jesus? He's like, okay, good job, you faithful vice president of this corporation. You brought in billions. Wait a minute, I gave you the billions. Wait, you didn't do nothing. So it's not what you do, it's that you do. Do something. Phase 2 is really in taking from engagement to the equipping. We want to equip you to start doing something and get you involved. So phase 2, so far we've gone through 2 of our 3 leadership phases. We haven't hit any too big of hiccups yet, right? Sorry it took me so long to present this service to you, but I wanted to make sure we were clear. So then we come into this and we realize, well, what's our 4th phase? It's the empowerment. The 3rd phase, our 4th phase is going to heaven, but our 3rd phase is the empowerment part, and that's really where your fruit is. So you've got your budding, you've got your blossoming, you're going to blossom, and then you get your fruit. And where the fruit is really the empowering. When you start to take one person in your ministry and you start to pour into them. So you've taken, let's take children's ministry for an example. You engaged in children's ministry, you got involved, you got it written down, you know what you want to do, and then we equipped you to help get that going, get that started. And then the 3rd stage is now you start pouring into one person under you. One person, but now they're not under you anymore, now they're over you. What? How'd that switch? I threw a stick at it. See, the branch always turns things upside down. So I just threw you want to turn that around. Now you want to pour into this person because you're pouring up to them. Now you're taking that one person, so if Nancy calls you and you're on Nancy's team and she starts to pour into you, don't feel like she's stalking you. She's just taking you to phase 3. Now you're her girl or you're her guy. She's going to pour into you because that's the person that she's going to say, okay, now this is my disciple maker. I'm going to make this person, I'm going to do what I did to them, I'm going to have them do to somebody else. So they go to phase 1 and they start engaging. And they start getting equipped. And then they start getting empowered. And then they start duplicating. And the system goes on and it goes on and it goes on. And people are growing. People are building. People are discipling one another. But it's not what you do. It's that you do. Because God doesn't care what you do. But He does care what you do. You're doing something. Because He wants you to have fruit. He says the axe sits at the bottom of the tree as he described this in Matthew 3. He says the axe is sitting at the tree waiting to chop down the tree because it's not bearing fruit. He's talking about Israel. And here's Jesus coming to produce fruit. And He's like, Israel, if you don't produce fruit, you will be cut down. And if you're not producing fruit, you will be cut down. How hard is it? It's easy. Just get engaged. Put a ring on it. Come on, put a ring on it, bro. Get engaged. Make it a relationship, not a long-distance courting. God wants a relationship with you, and you can't do that unless you're willing to get a ring on. And when you do that, you start engaging in Him, and you start getting into this and understanding what He's doing and understand how He's working. So let me give an example of this fruit real quick in business. Let's take a look at business. As I was in restaurant business, and I'll stand down here. It looks less authoritative. But I was in business 30 years. I did restaurants, and I worked with O'Charlie's. I worked with Chili's. But for example, in O'Charlie's, I opened up a new concept for them. It was up in Springfield. Anybody live up there? Springfield, Tennessee. I'm sorry for you. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm just being funny. But it's up in Springfield, so we opened a new restaurant up there, and it's a new concept. They asked me to do that and train, what I do, right? So I do this same 3 phases right in business. I engaged my staff. Then this is weird, right? I equipped them. That's really weird. And then I made them pour into someone else. That's weird. And then I made that person do the same thing over and over and over again. And so the restaurants literally ran themselves. So don't think that's easy to do, because it's not. It requires you. And it's hard work. How many times came in your mind, it's just easier if I do this myself.
Oh yeah, come on now, here we go.
And you're drinking poison. Because you're right, it is easier at that second. But in the long run, you're killing yourself.
That's it right there.
And you're killing, now watch how this is worse. You're killing everybody else around you. They're all a bunch of idiots. They can't do that. Yeah, why are they idiots? See, I didn't want to get that on tape. So, I didn't say that. But why are they?
You won't let them do it.
Yeah, because you're always holding the tools.
That's right.
And until you take that tool belt off and go, this is going to be harder for them to do it instead of me. But this is where they grow. This is where they grow. This is what builds. So anyway, I get moved over to Hendersonville. They asked me to open the Hendersonville O'Charlie's over there, and I opened it up, and I was there, and I was engaging, equipping, empowering my team, doing all this. And then we are a stock-held company. So if anybody knows what that means that you are controlled by the stockholders, and they're public, and what their opinion of you is. So that can be bad and can be good. So the owner, the president of the company and the board, they wanted to go for a higher stock value. It was about $24 million of their company. Now, how do you do that? Well, you bring in these stock investors, or I guess they're kind of interpreters of the stock market. So you bring them in and you have them come through your restaurant and say, look how well we are doing. We want to be raising our value of our stock in the corporate world. What do you think? Kind of dog and pony, So they picked Hendersonville. I don't know. We were close. Home office is right down there on Armory Drive. We're close. We're new. Da-da-da-da-da. And they told me, they called me and said, hey, we're going to have some executives come out from New York, from the stock market. This is a big deal. Let's be ready for them. And my staff the night before, they went home at 11. 11 o'clock. That's when we closed, just so you know. Well, why didn't you dog and pony it? You got these stock investors. You should have been ready for them and cleaning all night long. Yeah, they would have been burned out all night long. But we already do all that. Wait a minute, what would we have been cleaning? We'll clean that again. Why? There's no genie in it. You keep rubbing the bottle and you ain't getting no genie out of it. Go home. Go home to your first ministry, your family. Hello. So they went home at 11, and then all the executives came in early in the morning, and I was there early in the morning, and my kitchen manager was off. He's off on the schedule. And then my regional manager called him and goes, hey, what time are you coming in today, my kitchen manager? And he goes, I'm off today. Because that's what the schedule says. And he goes, well, do you not know that there's these executives from New York coming to evaluate our stock and our corporation? He's like, no, I didn't know anything about that. Why? Because I didn't say anything about it. What's that have to do with empowering, equipping, and engaging people? Has nothing to do with it. Because if we ain't doing it, then let's do some fruit inspection. You know what I'm saying? Check me out. Let's see if this is working. Because we're not going to dog and pony that. Because then I don't know if it's broken or I don't know if it's fixed. So he came in, the executives came in, my kitchen manager called me, hey, Bart, da-da-da-da. And I'm like, dude, you can come in, but don't wear your chef coat and don't plan on working. Because you're off. You can have a burrito. We don't even serve burritos, but we'll make a special one for you. So he came in, all the executives are there. I had the staff that was scheduled, that would normally be scheduled. Yeah. And all these executives came in, and my president of my company is like, Bart, where's your kitchen manager? Where's your extra staff? Where's all your people? I'm like, they're at home. That's where they belong. They're like, so you're just going to run this normal day? Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much what it is, right? No one told me Jesus is coming. Because I know I've engaged my team, I've equipped my team, and I've empowered my team. So now I'm going to disgrace them by bringing in a bunch of people when they have a chance to really bloom and bear fruit. Come on, I'll be stripping their fruit from them. Take some chances. Don't be afraid of people. The only person we need to be afraid of is Christ. And so here come the executives. They come in, about 24 of them, and they have this big lunch, and they want to try everything on the menu. So they literally ordered everything on the menu, and And, with the corporate executives were there, and I'm like, can you guys step back, please? You're crowding my team. They're cooking. You're not. No, we'll cook. We're the corporate execs. I'm like, good, yeah, just step back. These guys got it. And they just flawless, and executed it amazing. They're going back and looking in the kitchen and looking at cleanliness and looking at the restaurant. They're like, oh my gosh, this place is amazing. And so later on, to tell the story, we got the $24 million in the investment of the stock and the improvement of the stock. And the president of the company called and wanted to personally thank me because it was through our personal experience, he said, that they got it from. And I'm like, oh, that's great. That's nice. So glad for you. But it's the story is really in the people, not in the money. Because the money will come when the people are prepared. So the body of the church is set up to build the people, not the pastor. Right? And if it's set up that way, it doesn't matter who's in charge or what's in charge, as long as people are in charge. And people are the focus. And people are the concern. And people are the ones you want to equip and empower and engage them. Let's look at the story Christ gave about the 10 virgins. He had 10 virgins, 5 of them. Now all 10 of them, they were all equipped. They were all engaged, let's say that, right? They were virgins. They were engaged with Christ. They were waiting for the bride. They were engaged, okay? Stage 2. They were equipped. They were given lamps, lamp oil. They were given wicks. They were given They were engaged. They were equipped. And they were empowered. Who were the 5 that Jesus was not happy with? The 5 that didn't take opportunity of what they were empowered with. He equipped you. He even engaged you. He said, anyone, John 3:16, anyone who comes. That's the engagement. Anyone who comes. And He'll equip you, He tells us in the Word, the Holy Spirit. But now you're empowered to do something. And it was those 5 that He was angry with. Because they were all equipped and they were all engaged. But they didn't all take their empowerment. We look at the sheep and the goat, and Jesus says, in the end days when trials and tribulations come and Christ comes, I'm going to have goats and sheep, and the goats are going to be those who did what? That were engaged? Yes. The sheep were engaged. The goats were engaged. I'm going to be involved with those people who are equipped. The goats were equipped. The sheep were equipped. The sheep are going to be those who are going to go out and do something with what they were equipped with. And the disciples said, hey. They didn't probably say it like that, but just kind of came out. I was like, hey, that was cool. That was the Holy Spirit. Hey. But they went out and did something with it. And they did it to people who had a need. People that didn't have what you had. See, when you're in leadership, there's only one difference between you and another person, is you have something they don't have, but you're capable of giving it to them. The question is, will you? There's only one boss. But you're equipped to make that a change in someone. To see that person that's hungry, to see that person that has passion, to see that person that has drive, and pour that into them to be that next person. Because that's really what Jesus is looking for, that type of leadership. And every one of us, this is the hard part to get away from. Every one of us has that opportunity to do that. Every one of us has an opportunity to serve someone else. Young people, old people. What was that list we had? Remember the reasons you don't do things? Short people, uneducated people. I mean, we can go through that whole list you had. Old people, gray people, bald people. Bald and short people.
Any more change to go with that?